always like to start out, Jin, after that introduction, that kind of introduction, and I ask the key question for this program. It's called, What's Your Promise? So, Jin, welcome to the show, and thank you for telling us about what's your promise.
Thank
you. Are you there? There
yes,
you are.
I'm here.
I did that long introduction.
Intensely.
Hope I didn't put you to sleep with that long introduction.
Oh, no, I was checking, and, just a couple more things to add on your introduction to make, my story a little more dramatic would be when I got to America by myself at the age of 22, I didn't speak much English.
Oh, that's right, yes.
That was a major hurdle I had to, overcome. And, those are promises, and I think the promises are actually, it can be put into different terms in a way, and, it's a kind of a dream. And the dream, I guess you don't have to keep, but if you made a promise, it will kind of be a more driving force to kind of hold you up to that promise. So
very good point. Yes, it can be a dream.
Yeah.
And then if you state it as a promise, then you have to do something about it. You can't just dream about it.
Yeah, there's a more possibility that you will keep the dream. I mean, you will keep the promise. And dream is nice to have, and it's always encouraging. So there's a little bit of a distinction. But anyway, so my dream was becoming somebody someday and bring more justice and fairness into this so unfair and so unjust world. And then that was, it started as a dream, but I promised to myself, there's a God, we say God knows everything we think about and whatever we do, and God knows all. But there's another person who knows everything about yourself. That's yourself.
Yes.
So
yeah, that's a good point, and it's...
So you
made a promise to yourself, yes.
Right. And at that time, as I was growing up, I didn't believe in God, and I didn't accept God, and so there was the only person who will hold me responsible was me. So I promised to myself, and she was kind of a hardcore, pusher.
Yeah.
That becomes.
It's very interesting, and I'll just mention this, and then we'll get more detail from you, of course. But I've developed, and I'm writing in the book, and I talk about this a little bit. There are really three, when I talk about the anatomy of a promise, there are really three people or three, I guess call them people that you can give a promise to or make a promise to. And one you mentioned is God. Some people I've talked to, done interviews, make a promise to God that they're going to do something, or some deity or some higher power. That's one. Another one is maybe make a promise to yourself, as we'll hear about what you're more specifically in your case. And the third category in this anatomy of promises is you make a promise to somebody you care about, somebody close to you. Maybe in my case, I made a promise to my mother that I would dedicate that book to her memory. And so that becomes a very driving, motivating force because you've made a promise to someone you care about. So those are three categories. I don't have a strong opinion about which one is more powerful than the other. I think, and I'm going to maybe ask a few questions about this, about the promise to yourself. I think in some ways, if people make promises to themselves, they maybe have the opportunity to not do, maybe have a little bit of flexibility because they haven't made it public. Or if you make a promise to yourself and then you make it public and you write it down, and then it becomes a lot stronger, I think. But anyway, let's talk about your promise to yourself more specifically. You talked about wanting to sort of achieve something, be somebody, and be a fighter for justice. Those are those are pretty powerful.
I know. I mean, because of the reality I was placed, or I was dropped into, was quite unbearable, and but I was born into a poor family from the beginning with anyway. As a girl, the society where don't really welcome girls or they welcome girls to serve, use them as a subservient to men or slaves.
Right.
So that's the only way they would welcome those girls, But
and what country
anyway,
again?
Korea.
What country were you born?
Korea.
Sorry? Korea, yes.
Korea.
Okay. So you're born in Korea. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, but until I reached the 6th grader, I was just kind of a dumb little girl, and I was number one from the, bottom of my class, and some people thought I was kind of, retarded, because,
that right?
Yeah, so I was so unbright,
Oh, I get it. It's hard to believe that. I mean, I've met you. That's hard to believe.
That's actually very good ingredient. Now I'm believing God, so I thank God for giving me that kind of a time frame to be dumb and at the bottom, and that way I can relate to so many people. Because
you've been there, done that. You've experienced everything.
And
that's what's amazing about your story. You've experienced so much.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah.
So the person who helped me, woke me up, the most influential person was my mom. And when people say mom, they will always think about how kind and caring mom was. But in my case, my mom was a kind of a totally opposite, almost a tyrant. It's ruthless practically to especially girls. So my mom didn't do really well in making money, so my mom had to run a tavern, and so that put her into more bitter mode. And then, because of what I had my older sister, brother, and me, and my 3 younger brothers, and my sister got married when I became 6th grader. So I had to do all the house chores from 6th grader on. And I happen to be such a lazy person. I don't want to get up early in the morning. I don't want to go out into the cold to wash my face or anything like that. And I was practically a very lazy person. And yet my mom had to make me to do all the house chores from 5 o'clock dark in the morning until practically almost midnight, except the time I was in school. So that woke me up very fast. And I said, wow, I don't want to do this. And if I refuse, then my mom will wake me up with just a slap on my face or, pull my hair and make sure that I understand that there's no choice for that,
Right. So she was a taskmaster. She made you do things. And did you also make a promise when you were in 6th grade? I think I read something about that. Did you make a promise to your teacher or something like that? Yeah.
Well, I didn't make a promise to my teacher, but he's the one who planted a seed about the Ph.D. And but to make the connection with that, as I was placed into the place where I couldn't get out, and yet I didn't want to do it, so I postponed my leisure time and happiness to the future. And that's when I promised that, I start discovering and feelings, anger and frustration and determination, and saying, what is this? I mean, I never asked my mom to give me a birth as a girl, or I never asked anybody to, bring me into this world as a poor girl of the tavern owner. So why do I have to go through all this suffering and injustice and unfairness? And she was not going to even send me to junior high school because she thought the girls, education for girls, elementary school is more than enough. And when I heard that, I said that this is totally wrong. So that poor, timid, the dumb girl woke up and became a warrior.
A warrior, okay.
So that's why I titled it as a kind of a warrior's mindset, But I became a sudden warrior and determined that I am going to become somebody and to bring the justice to this world. And, so I was so perked up, but I couldn't say a word outside. So when you kind of determine things internally, that becomes in a way more powerful, like a stress. If you keep on, pile it up internally, that can kill you. But in this case, it's motivating me and to not to give up, to become somebody. But I didn't know what's the success and what's becoming somebody because I told you, I was so stupid in a way,
Mm-hmm.
So I asked my teacher, I want to become somebody in the future. So what would be considered to be the most success in this world? And my teacher said, become a Ph.D.
And this is when you're so far away from even thinking about that,
Yeah. So when he said Ph.D., and I said, oh, okay, then I will become a Ph.D. So what do I have to do to become a Ph.D.? And he said, well, do well in the school. So, single-minded, this girl start studying really hard from then on because I had to become a Ph.D. to become that justice fighter. So single-mindedly I studied and I discovered the, kind of a shortcut how to raise your, the school records and learn more in short time frame. And that was an amazing discovery. And
so do you want to share that or?
Oh, well,
it's very want to share the shortcut? That's
very simple. And, before I decided to become a Ph.D., if I put in about 10 hours reading something, after even I read about 5 or 6 times of the same thing, I don't remember anything,
Right.
So that's how I managed to become the number one from the class all the time. But once I decided to become Ph.D. and then I started to study, man, amazing what I read. I can remember more than half of it, in just one read. I said, wow, what's happening? So when I take the exam in school, somehow, I can remember the answers to all those questions on the paper, and I can remember those answers from what books and what pages sometimes. I said, whoa.
So you improved your memory somehow, your recall, you improved all that somehow.
Yeah. But later, I didn't discover why that happened. Why was it possible until much later once I became the speaker, and I've been sharing these stories, and I was taking seminars just like, you did with Jack Canfield and all those people. And then I realized, now I know the ingredient. Once I decide to, become Ph.D., I promised to myself that I will become a Ph.D. someday. And that became my guiding light. And so I have a goal to reach. And then I know how to get there. And then, but the thing is that I didn't have much time, even to me, I've got only 24 hours a day, not even 1 second more. And yet I've got much more to study than other people because I'm trying to, from the bottom of the class, I have to climb up to the higher, so I had to put in more time, but yet I have less time now at that time, because I had to do all the house chores and then go to school. And I have to sleep too, So I didn't have much time at all, and that's when your subconscious wake up. And subconscious is trying to, bring all the resources you need, as Jack taught us, saying, when you know what, how will show up. So I know what I want, and how will start showing up. And those amazing power of subconscious, and realize that I have a goal to reach, but I don't have enough time. So it was kind of bringing in the focus, amazing, sharp focus into the study. So
yes.
like,
well, that's a key word, isn't it? The focus, to have that, that promise, have that clarity, to know what you want, and then have the focus, and then things start to happen. Your subconscious starts to help you out.
Oh, one more ingredient. Act. You have to act.
Yes.
Take an action.
That's true. Take action. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's
then
absolutely
all those
true.
start happening. So that's how my school, class records was just going up fast, really fast. And so when I was graduating from elementary school, sixth grader, at the end of sixth grader, I graduated from the second of a whole class, and number one of all female students. So, then it was start changing my life, my fate practically, because I was number one among the girls and number two from a whole class of almost, I think about 60 in one class and 6 classes, about 360 students. I was number two, from there. And then my teacher was coming to visiting my house and then, bragging about me to my parents and to my mom. She always thought I was just a dumb, useless girl. And yet, here's the amazing, the teacher in the country in those days were considered like a god almost. And this God is coming to visit our house and, bragging about me. So my mom and my dad really liked that, So
yeah, that made them feel good. Made them feel good.
So they changed their plan. They were gonna have me stay home do the house chores, after sixth grader, after elementary school. Now they feel kind of it's too bad to use this smart and kind of a good word-bringing girl to just to keep home. So they decided to send me to the junior high and send me to high school. And see, that's how you get to go to, I needed all those to become their Ph.D. When you know what, how will show up, right? So,
well, it started with that promise, of which I go back to the message of this program, and the message that I'm sharing with the world is it started when you made that decision, and you thought of it in terms of a promise to yourself. I promise to get this PhD, and then how do you go about doing that? And then things change. Transformation happens because of the promise, which is, and that's where you mentioned take action. And this is a quick point I want to make. Sometimes I think about a promise as sort of the connective between, you mentioned a dream or let's say a goal or something, an objective. And then if you make the promise, that sort of connects you to the action. It's almost like you need the promise in order to energize yourself and motivate yourself to continue to take action. Because if you make a promise to yourself, you wake up every day knowing that you've made that promise, and that your conscience in some cases, your accountability to yourself, your integrity, all those forces come into play because you've made that promise. And so that's how you keep action going because of the promise. It's a motivator. You need that motivation. So I think that's part of the reason that people who make promises tend to achieve quite a bit. They stick with it because they've made a promise. Sometimes people will make a goal and maybe change the goal or fall short, and they don't really. It's not that big a deal because it's just a goal. A goal, it doesn't seem to me to have as much of that power behind it that a promise has. And I just wonder if that's your experience. So some people might think a goal is really powerful, and there's nothing wrong with goals. I sometimes just suggest to people, you might have 100 goals or things you might want to do in your life. Pick a couple of them and turn those into promises. Be selective and make some promises that'll help you achieve those goals, and then maybe pick a few more once you've achieved those, and then you build up your achievement muscles that way. But a promise can help turn a goal into action, is what I guess the message. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree with that. And goals or dreams, as I mentioned in the beginning, is like a guiding light.
Yes.
Showing the way. But that doesn't mean you always have to go that way, or there's a no have to in those guiding light. you want to. That's more.
Yeah.
But promise, in a way, you have to.
That's right. Oh. Yeah, it's a little bit more. There's a little more force behind it, almost a compelling quality behind the promise. It's not. Now, I say this sometimes. It's you can change a goal, but you can only break a promise. And that suggests again how a promise is a different sort of qualitative sort of difference. There's something different, something special, and that's why I often talk about the two magic words. I always say there are two magic words in our language, in our culture, and this is worldwide, not just in the U.S., but there are two magic words. I promise. And when you say I promise, a lot of things change, and it's a more of a binding, and it's a heart or emotion-centered commitment as opposed to a goal which can be a little bit left brain or a little bit more intellectual. It's not really centered in the heart, but a promise has this quality of being more, I think, a little bit more emotional or even right brain, and that's part of the anatomy of a promise that I talk about. And I think it has, because of that, because it's more of an emotion and heart-centered commitment, there's a lot more chance that you're going to follow through and do what you say you're going to do. That's what I think a promise brings to the to a person's life. And I really have begun to think that the more successful people in the world have probably made promises maybe early on. They've made some promise that maybe changed their life in some way. They made a promise, and that because of that promise, along the way they've been able to change their lives and transform the lives of others because of the promise. And so that's part of what I'm doing is cataloging these stories, because I think they're very uplifting. Like your story is extremely powerful,
Thank you.
And really inspiring. Because you have to remember, you live it every day, but you mentioned a little bit, coming from a poor household, as you said, you used the word, you weren't really all that, smart in school when you were younger, and then something woke you up, you made a promise, and you transformed your life, and now you're a great role model to others, and then we can get into some of the other things you've achieved in your life. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about your book, because that's part of your message now. You can go out and talk, you give speeches, you inspire people, and tell me a little bit. You're a presidential scholar. You were named as a president. Is that what
not I. It was my daughter. Yeah, my daughter.
Your daughter's a presidential scholar. Okay.
Yeah, that one, it's for high school graduates. Graduating seniors, and we have about 2.5 million high school graduating seniors each year, and then from them they select 141 students.
So out of 2.5 million.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, 141.
And your daughter is one of those.
Yeah, she was selected when she graduated from high school.
That's excellent.
She went. She was invited to White House and met Clinton and Hillary. And, that's when Clinton was president. So
right. Well, that's very good.
That
well,
was
congratulations.
So she's making my success more meaningful, because many people, they are successful, but they have horrible results with their children. But in my case, I came to America as a housemaid, and the beginning was real meager from the bottom, but I am successful, I would call. And then at the same time, my daughter is successful, and I raised her practically as a single mom. And as I mentioned, I didn't speak the language even in the beginning too, but yet, we both graduated from Harvard. I got my, master's and Ph.D. from Harvard. She has a BA from Harvard, a bachelor's degree from Harvard, and then she had a master's degree from the Princeton. So all those were possible, And that's because I made a promise to myself that I will become somebody someday, and I will show the world that even the people from the bottom, they can become somebody too. So don't discriminate and treat them bad or stop the opportunities for them, because they are the assets to make this world a much better place too, you know.
Wow, that's terrific. That's really in line with a lot of what I'm about, and that's empowering other people, helping other people see their potential, see their promise. And so that's what this whole promise idea is, you know, help encourage people to make promises so they can change their life, change and transform the world. Because if the accumulated effect of everybody achieving a little bit more in their lives and doing more and being more successful, the cumulative effect is a more successful world, a better world in many ways, because more people are achieving. And so I think that, and your daughter is a great example. You transformed your life, and I just love this, that because of a promise, and your daughter is a beneficiary, and the world is a better place as a result of your daughter's successes as well. Do you know if your daughter made any promises, or maybe I should have her do on the show as well? But did she? Do you have any idea did she ever promise you, for instance, that she would do something? Does that? I mean, you don't have to share that if you don't want to. But.
Yeah, she promised me that no matter what, she will look after me.
Okay.
She will look after me and my mom and my youngest brother, who is really retarded. You know, he's I don't know. I guess people say the word retarded is not.
Learning disability.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So he's like he's over 50, but his mental age is like 3 or 4.
Oh, is that right? So she made a promise to you that she would take care of you and your immediate family, your mother, and youngest that's brother. A big promise. That's a very big promise.
And that's a very comforting, and that's a very moving feeling.
Yeah. Yes. And because that promise is so. I mean, that promise. And this is, again, using those two magic words, Mom, I promise you I will do such and such. You know that that's going to happen.
Yes.
I mean, that's, you know that,
Not only she promised to me, as you said that sometimes promising to someone else who you care means brings more power into the, execution the aspect. So she not only promised to me, and she promised to her boyfriend, and she promised to other people that she's going to look after us, all three of us. And so I said, wow.
That's great. That is really powerful, because she's doing a lot of what I do recommend to people, that they make a promise to someone they care about and make it public in some way, make promises if you've made a commitment like that, just to let other people know about it, because the more you let people know about your promise, the more accountable you are, and the more, again, your integrity is on the line about keeping your word, because other people know about it.
Right.
And that can be very helpful.
Yeah, and if I may add a little more, encouragement to those people who are afraid to make promise or afraid to take an action. Once you promise something, and that once you have that goal and dream, and you start taking an action, as I said, that when you know how will show up, and that not only that subconscious is bringing the necessary resources and the focus and all those things, at the same time is waking up the creativity, unlimited power of creativity and innovation, and the power of imagination. All those amazing powers, the subconscious will wake them up to help you.
Yes.
That's what happened to me, When there's nothing seems to be available to help me to get the resources I need, hey, creativity, imagination, and all those were bringing me, and when I'm feeling down, and imagination was showing me how great I would be in the future, and once I become great, and how great it would be to, help other people, and bringing the, fixing the society. And in my imagination, I was seeing all those to encourage me, see how great future is waiting for you, so don't give it up, So that's what I was using, and later I realized that was visioning. Subconscious was bringing the other resources available to everybody, actually. But the subconscious was bringing those, resources to me to make sure that I will keep on going to keep that promise. And when I was giving, I share all these stories when I give speeches. And one time I was giving speeches to those welfare students. The students on welfare, and welfare sent them to college in America. And I was talking to them about where I began and how I was able to reach here, and using almost all the resources that everybody has, available to get. So I shared my stories, and then at the end of the talk, those students, they just rushed to me and hugged me, and they want to take me out for the lunch or dinner with their welfare money, Yeah. I mean, the rich people can buy me the dinner or at the, real exotic place, and that won't be that much on them. But those people on welfare, that's just a big cent. But they want to take me out for the, meal. And at the same time, they said that they were promising me, or there were several promises there. Quite a few students were promising me they're going to get out of welfare because they just saw the possibility. And they said that if you came here without even speaking the language, housemaid, and, possibility of being sold on the street as a prostitution, yet you finished you retired as a major from U.S. Army and got Ph.D. from Harvard, and this is American society you used, and you got up there. So we were born here. We spoke English ever since a little child, and why not us? So we promise you we're going to get out of this welfare. So I saved some money for the taxpayers, And one girl, she's a single mom. I think she was about 19 or 20. She came to me and held my hand and shook my hand, and she said, Jin, I am going to raise my daughter just like yours. And I said, wow, I thought, even now, I'm getting a goosebumps just remembering that picture. And the professor said, all these students, all those times, she's been teaching there almost about 20 years, and she said, I've never seen them coming alive like that. Wow, I didn't know they were alive.
Well, you have the ability with your story to really inspire people.
Because my story is their story, and I'm showing them step by step what they can do to change their lives and their children's lives. And it's such a great feeling when you are there, when you are here, and you are helping others. And I shared that feeling too. This is an amazing feeling. And when I was going through those, trying to keep the promise, and whenever I feel giving up, and I told you that I was showing me the vision, and I am feeling exactly the same feeling as I saw in the vision. So that's the possibility, that's the reality, not just a dream or not just in imagination world.